So broadly, use cases are also similar to that. So we can come up with different type of use cases, and still everybody could be right. So there's nothing one or right or wrong answers, right? Now, the fact that they have so many applications which are of similar nature but which are designed differently. Like you take up an email application, right? So there's so many email applications, and each one of them is different. Like you have Yahoo and you have Gmail, and they were completely different. So the basic behavior is the same. You still have to check your emails and respond to emails and all, but the way they are designed or the way they look and all is different, right? So similarly, use cases also could be different. So that doesn't mean that only one is right and the rest of them are all wrong. Okay. So having said that, let's see how these relationships would improve the use case diagrams. The first one is the generalization relationship. Okay, we tend to use the generalization where you have two or more use cases which has a significant common behavior, right? So there are two, let's say, use cases which are talking about functionalities, two different functionalities, but a lot of them is similar, right? So, for example, let's look at the example. You have a registration process, right? Now there are some variations of registration. A local student can register in an office in a university. Right? A foreign student has to register in a university, and out of state student also has to register in a university, right? But broadly, what are they doing? They are registering in the university. So if there are some 10 or 6 steps in the registration process, a lot of them are common across these 3 use cases. In that situation, it doesn't make sense to repeat all 6 steps in 3 separate use cases. Okay, what we can do is we can create a common version of it and then create a parent use case. Okay, it has all the common steps, and then in the child use cases, you will only specify the differences. Okay? So you are not specifying all the details. So you would say, the primary flow for the parent use case would have these 6 steps. But for local registration, in primary flow, you would say step 1 to 5 refer to registration, and step 6 you list down here. Right? Similarly, for foreign registration, you would say, step 1 to 3 refer to registration, and 4 to 8 you can list down in the child use case. Right? Out of state registration, first step 1 to 4 refer to the registration use case. Step 5 and 6 you can list down here. Okay, so that is how it will help you. Now the advantage of this is, let's say step 2 changes. So of this requirement, let's say the customer comes back and then say, I want this step 2 changed. You don't have to go and make the change at 3 places. So you don't have to make it here, here and here, right? So if you have used the generalization relationship, you will make the change only at one place, at this point. Okay, so managing the changes would become much easier. And logically it makes sense. All the registration related steps are in one single use case, and then only the deviations or the differences are covered in the child use cases here, right? So it looks much more well organized, and it would also increase the maintainability, because any changes which comes in, it's easier to identify and make that change at one single place rather than in multiple places, right? So that would result in your reduction in effort as well. So if you have made change to this only one single one, right? So similarly, the design and development and testing effort would also be restricted to only this one single use case. You don't have to retest all these, redesign, redevelop and retest all these 3 use cases. Okay, that's an advantage of a generalization. So you would use this symbol, a triangle, and then an arrow pointed out with a triangle as a head. Right? So this is the symbol which is signifying the generalization. Clear about this relationship? Any questions? Okay. So what this generalization means is whatever is defined in the parent is by default applicable here, called child use case. Over and above that, you can add some steps to this, or delete some steps from this, or modify some steps over here, right? So you can do all that. So you can override the behavior. Okay. So that's what we are doing. We are defining 6 steps here, and step number 6 I'm changing in the local registration, and 4, 5, 6 I'm changing, and I'm adding 2 additional steps, 7 and 8. And then out of registration I'm just changing steps 5 and 6. Okay. So that way, at least the common steps are referred from the parent use case, and only the changes are listed down. Guys, is it clear? Any questions on this? All right, so let's move on from generalization. The second one is an include use case. Okay. Now, there would be some functionality which could repeat across different use cases. Right? Now, one way is like, let's say there are 4 different use cases. And let's say each one of them has 10 steps, 1 to 10 steps. I'm just keeping it simple. Each 4 of them has 10 steps. Okay, and some piece of functionality. Let's call like steps 4 to 6 are common, and they are repeating. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4 places. This steps 4 to 6 are repeating. So, rather than write those 4, 5, 6 here, 4, 5, 6 here, 4, 5, 6 here, and 4, 5 6 here, 4 different places, you could pull it out and then create a separate use case for steps 4 to 6. Right? So some common behavior, if you have across unrelated use cases, you will pull that out and then include it. You're just saying that, this is a common behavior across 4 different use cases. So rather than explain it in all these 4, you're pulling it out and then creating a separate use case. And then you'll just include it. Okay. Now the advantage is that you have one single source again. Right? So this steps 4 to 6, you don't have to repeat at 4 different places. So if this one of these steps changes, either 4, 5 or 6 changes, you don't have to go and then make any changes at these 4 places. You just come and make change only at this place. Right? It increases your maintainability. Right? So your impacts are much lesser. Okay? So let's look at an example. I think it becomes much easier for you to understand. So we all use our online banking application. Right? So our online banking system. When we have bank accounts, we log in into the portal. And if you see, some of those transactions would have a secondary authentication, which means you'll have to authenticate yourself. So maybe the first time you log in, when you log in into the application, you would have to enter your user ID password. But sometimes you would also be asked to either enter a security code which is sent to your mobile number, or maybe you have a secondary password, or maybe you are asked to enter the some numbers at the grid values at the back of your card, right? So some secondary authentication mechanism is in place. Why? Because you want to add that extra layer of security. Okay. So let's say the process of secondary authentication is you will send a security code to your mobile, right? And then you'll have to enter that into your online banking to confirm that transaction. So so the security code is sent, the customer would enter, and then the system would validate, and then proceed with the transaction. Right? So there are 3 steps. Right? Now, This secondary authentication is used at multiple places. So let's say when you want to transfer any funds, you have to enter that security code. Maybe whenever you're changing your password, then you'll have to enter that security code which is sent to your mobile. Whenever you want to add a new beneficiary, you want to implement that secondary authentication. So maybe if you're logging in from a new system also, right? So maybe if your IP address is new, right? So you might also still want to have that secondary authentication also, right? So there could be multiple places where you could do a secondary authentication. So broadly, that's a requirement. Okay. Now, if I have to explain these steps at each and every part, right, I have to again do it multiple times. Right, so I have to do it 3 times, 3 steps here, 3 steps here, 3 steps here, 3 steps here, and if there are 2 more use cases which are using this, I'll have to do that 3 here, right? Let's say this step 2 changes, or step 3 changes. Let's say one of these steps changes, right? I have to go and make changes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 requirements, 6 use cases are impacted, right? So it will implement. It means a lot of changes. Okay. So rather than do that, if I pull out these 3 steps and create a separate use case, calling as authentication of customer, then say a security code would be sent as primary is step 1. Step 2, the user has to enter that code, and step 3 you will validate the code and confirm, and then proceed further. Right. So that's authentication customer use case. Now I can just tag it along with all those features which need secondary authentication. So if I want to change password, I'll explain the steps to change password. So go to that page where the password change option is there. You enter your user ID, enter your old password, new password, and then confirm your new password. And then you click on the submit button. On submit button, you'll have to secondary authenticate. So you'll be sent a security code. You'll have to enter that value, and then only if it's validated, then you say that password change successful, and display that message. Okay. So effectively, in your primary flow, you're removing these 3 steps and saying, refer to this authenticate customer use case for details about it. All right. So you have made your job a little more easier. So every time you want to use this feature, you just have to refer it in your use case, right? And
I have a question here. Say this authenticate customer, like whatever the use case is, it has 3 requirements, 3 steps, and the change password uses these 3 steps, but the transfer funds uses only 2 steps. Then how we will mention what has to be included in this and what has to be excluded?
So only where the functionality which includes all these 3 steps, then only you can pull it out. Right? So ideally you will pull up some functionality.
Parent-child relationship will only work if it works for everything.
So this would not be a parent-child. This is a include relationship. Parent-child is only for generalization.
Okay.
Right. And include is used where there is a common set of functionality, and that you want to use it at multiple use cases. You would pull that out and create a separate. So this use case doesn't have the common behavior. You cannot create an include use case. Right. So this whole steps, the 3 steps should be created in this include. Right. So if you cannot say that only 2 steps would be used in transfer funds, I would still include it. That wasn't what would work. Right. So logically look at it. Right. So if some common behavior is there, so let's say if only 2 steps are there, then you should bring out only 2 steps and then include it as a common behavior. You get it? So look at it from a functional point of view. Only when you say that this behavior, I think authentication of customer is a common process which is across multiple use cases. So rather than repeat those steps at each and every use case, I'll pull it out and define it as a separate use case and include it where it is.
Raju sir, can we say this like the first one? Can we say it's like a one-to-many relation, and this one is like many-to-one relation?
So you're talking about generalization and
Yeah, generalization is something about like one to many, and include is like many to one.
could be, yes. So you're saying that there is a common one, and then that is leading to many use cases, and here many use cases are linking to one, right? Or a different
Yes.
way, if you have to put it in a different way, I would say, you know, generalization. Let's say, you know, there is a use case, right? And let's say there are two use cases, and a significant part of that is common, right? Let's say 80% is common. Okay, so this 80% you'll define it as a parent use case, right? And usually if you look at the child, they're all related, right? So registration, it's, you know, one is local registration, foreign registration, out of registration, but the end of it, it's all registration, right? So they have something, a lot of the functionality common among themselves, right? So broadly, they're all registration process, right? But in an include, it's all unrelated features, right? Changing a password or funds transfer has nothing in common, except some minor thing, which would be 10% of the functionality, which is authenticating the customer. Get it? So there is nothing common between these, use cases which are including the common functionality. But in case of generalization, all the child use cases are related. So you tend to have a more or less common name, like, you know, registration in this case. Right? So you have registration for all these three processes, right? So I would say, you know, a common behavior, if it's a significant part of it is common behavior, like 70-80%, you will define a generalization. Let's say only a small part of the behavior is common. So you have multiple use cases, and let's say only this is common, right? Which is like 10%, right? So this 10% you will define as a use case, and then include it as required, right? So here, if 80% or 90% is common, right? So you will define that as a parent use case, right, which is common, and then you would define the generalizations. Okay. I hope I hope that clarifies between generalization and include, right? So if a small piece of functionality is repeating across unrelated use cases, use and include. Okay, small piece of functionality like authentication of customer, small behavior is repeating across unrelated features, like changing password, you're authenticating customer, transferring of funds, you're authenticating customer, adding a beneficiary, you're authenticating customer, login from a new system, you're authenticating customer. All unrelated features, but you're using some common functionality. So pull that out and define it as an include. Okay, and where a significant part of that is common, like a local registration, foreign registration, and out of state registration. Let's say they have 6 steps or 6 screens, and out of that, more or less, most of them are common. Right, so close to 4 or 5 of them are common. Right, so 3, 4, 5, around 4 steps are common among these. Right. So why do you want to rewrite all those steps? All you can do is you can define a parent one, which is a common behavior, and then the child can have the specifics, the changes or modifications or new steps added on to the child cases. Okay, clear about this? Generalization include. Are we good there?